Yo, dude.
Hey, I don't know what's
Yeah.
happening. My internet just keeps
Yeah.
dropping out. Like I went downstairs and asked my family if they're resetting the router or something, and they weren't. Um,
Yeah, I don't really mind that much.
um, but yeah. But the thing I was saying about the cops is, unfortunately, the cops that aren't dicks, you never hear about because they never give you a reason to hear about them. We actually had an incident this week in my hometown where a video of a cop, like tossing a girl went viral or something, and it's like you hear the story, and I guess the story was two of these high school kids were fighting after school or something. There were these two girls. They tried to intervene and break it up, and then at some point the cops showed up, and then one of the girls ended up getting thrown by one of the police officers, and then both of the girls ended up getting arrested. And now when my mom's telling me the story, because my mom's like, you only see 16 seconds of the footage, and it does look excessive and this and that.
No, I changed my mind on it because now I'm just thinking that most of the time English police are just being pussies. Actually, to be
well
fair,
well
like we
the
have actually got a problem with how inefficient they are.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
some of it to some extent, like, I hate to sound like I'm co signing government use of brute force, but it's like,
Not always a bad idea.
not always a bad idea. Yeah, yeah. It's like I think it's one of the things Islam almost has right, where it's like, if you're caught stealing in America, you're gonna have to pay a fine. You're gonna go, maybe to jail for a month or so or something like that. But it's like if you're caught in an Islamic country, they're taking your hand. Like you're not gonna steal because you don't want to lose that hand. You know what I mean? Like it's like if the penalty isn't severe enough, I feel like people are more inclined to see what they can get away with. Little kids are like that. I mean, if you tell a little kid like, "Oh, your punishment," like I mean, even to some extent, like I would say when I was a kid, like if I did something wrong and the punishment was you're gonna get spanked, I would take a spanking over like a week without video games. Like, it's like the more severe the punishment, like at least the spanking just hurts in the moment. Like a week without video games as a little kid, that's gonna piss me off like long term. Um, but so the video from my local area, there's only the footage of the cop tossing the chick, and I'm asking my mom. I said, there's obviously a chunk of this story that is missing because how does it go from these girls are helping break up the fight to then these girls are now in an altercation themselves with the police? And I said, I have a guess as to how that happened. I said, my guess is the cop approached the scenario as a neutral force and is just like, you're both in the wrong. I'm going to break this up and deal with both of you. And these two girls were probably like, yeah, but they didn't do nothing wrong. It was that one. It was all him. You got to deal with him. You ain't touching this guy. He didn't do nothing, blah, 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 blah. And then once that started, they said, listen, back up or I'm taking you both in. And then it probably went to, well, you ain't going to tell me. And then that's all it takes. I said, I guarantee you those two girls, after trying to break up the fight and when the cops showed up, they decided to try to tell the cops how to do their job, and now they're obstructing. And that's that simple. Like, they could have been the good Samaritan in the situation, but now they're the victim. And it's, same thing my neighbor told me. We had this incident where there was this kid, he was supposed to be the one to make it out of the hood. Good grades, sports scholarships, the whole bit. Even though any of these kids that go through my local school district that they say this about, all the sports scholarships in the world don't stop them from being back here in 4 years, a crackhead on the streets. That's the reality of the situation. You can go to school and play basketball, but you may be nice in the small pond that is Poughkeepsie. But when you're playing in college with all the people that will end up in the NBA, you ain't shit. And you will learn real quickly you ain't shit. You can be the all-star in the small pond, but when you're in the big pond, you ain't shit. You're fish food. But it's just ridiculous because even in that scenario, that kid was wrong place, wrong time, got his head blown off, and when the cops are showing up at the scene trying to figure out what happened and everything like that, the local bystanders are approaching the cops as if the cops shot the kid. They're like, you fucking pigs, what are you doing here? Fuck the police, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, the cops are just trying to lock down a crime scene. They're showing up after the fact. They weren't there when it happened. They don't know what happened. These people probably know more than they do. And they're just still giving attitude to the police because Black Lives Matter and all that nonsense and everything else. And it's like, I guarantee you that's what happened. This black girl tried to get fly with one of the cops and got tossed on her head, and she probably deserved it. I don't, my threshold for claims of police brutality are so low nowadays. Like, they really fucked themselves with asking for these body cams, because now the police have the body cams.
Yeah, now they know they can get away with it, because...
Well, now the thing is we know more often than not...
Because they know the camera's going to back up what they're saying.
What they're saying, yes, there's going to be no doubt. So once someone starts acting fly, the cop knows, well, I'm covered. I have you on tape acting like a jackass, so if I have to tase you, shoot you, choke you out, whatever, I know I'm covered. Like, yeah, the cops have an insurance policy now, and the fucked up thing is the people that thought that they were going to catch the cops doing some shady shit are the ones that asked for this, and it's completely backfired on them. And so it's like, now when there are all these claims about police brutality and all this other shit, you got to show me a little more than just someone getting thrown on their head. I want to see at least 2 minutes before that, before I even try to make a judgment. Because I'm just going to err on the side of the cops at this rate. Like, it's, and plus the whole narratives where it's like, I think of it like this. Even if I was a racist and I hated black people.
Which you do.
No, right? If I chose to be a cop, even if I hated black people, would I rather be a police officer and protect and serve a white neighborhood? Or would I want to go to a high-crime black neighborhood and have to have, altercations with the people I hate all day long, just for the sake that maybe I might get to crack a head or two during my tenure as a cop?
I'd work in an abortion clinic.
I think even if I was a racist, I would rather work in the white neighborhoods and say, I'm protecting my white people from... any black people that may try to sell drugs to the white neighborhoods or anything like that. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. The idea that, as someone who hates people would choose to spend their time serving and protecting those in which they hate. Like, it just doesn't add up, because you ultimately spend more time serving and protecting the good black people of that community than getting to crack heads of the bad ones. You can't even sell me that narrative anymore, that cops choose to, take out their racist feelings through this outlet or whatever. Bullshit. And even as you were saying before we got cut off, yeah, I'm not a big fan of this whole New Zealand story anyway. But remember, I get like this with... I was like this with Las Vegas, too. I just have this reluctancy, and it sucks because I almost look to Alex Jones where I'm like, Alex Jones would be the one calling this shit bullshit, but ever since the Sandy Hook thing, he's so much more precautious with these things. And I guess it's the responsibility of the size of his platform and all of that. But it's like... it's wrong for me to, have a problem with Alex's hesitation when I have my own hesitation. But it's like, I know I'm being lied to. So it's like, it's almost like, do I feel like trying to cipher through the lies to try to find the truth? Or do I just want to ignore it altogether?
The thing that's weird about it is normally when it's the other way around, we've got the background on the guy, like, he was a refugee, came from here. like we don't know anything about this guy, like where he worked, what his job was, where he was hanging about. All we know is he flew to Pakistan for a while and flew to North Korea.
Well, and that's one of the things I was wondering. Where I was sort of wondering how much backstory do we have besides the manifesto?
Not much. I don't believe that's his real name. Like I thought he was using an alias or something. So is this the story of the alias or is this the story of the man? I mean, I don't know what we're looking at.
Yeah. Yeah, I just have that Vegas feeling again, where it's like there's so many layers of bullshit. Do I want to spend the time trying to find what's true? Or do I just want to say it's all fucked up and don't feed into it? Because that's one of the things I had tweeted about this on YouTube that was bothering me is, you know, all of these commenters with all their naive good intentions being like, don't feed into it, this is exactly what the shooter wanted. And it's like, you know, the media manipulating people. And I'm like, the whole thing is a manipulation. Like, the point of the manifesto was to manipulate everyone. It's all manipulative. Even if you give it the time of day, you were being manipulated. Like, there's no way to approach this and not feed into it. Like, that's just the and that kind of goes to what you say about
it's like they've learned from their other operations.
Yeah.
They have to lie. So there's no people can't have people question, did it happen? How do we get around that?
Well, and it's sort of like
how do we get around his intentions? Release a manifesto.
Yeah. Well, and it's sort of
sure, the stuff written on the guns remind me of the elf shooter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought the writing on the guns. I was just thinking, seeing that with that guy was MK Ultra.
Yeah.
The elf shootings.
Well, and it's like that's the thing, sort of, with what you were saying, where it's like, you know, why this turned into a global issue rather than just a New Zealand localized crime issue. You know, and that's sort of what I'm saying about the whole, if you give it any mind, you're feeding into it and, you know, feeding the beast, essentially, is because of that. Like, why is this not like, I'm sure there's gang shootings in Chicago that are just as bad. You know, I think it was like last year, it was like 4th of July weekend or something. You had like 100 people shot in one city. Like, shit like this happens, but the Chicago shootings never turn to national or you know, worldwide headline news like this did. I mean, it's just there's something so fishy about the whole situation. And yeah. So to tie it to Britain, how are the things on the Brexit front? I saw people are
cancelled. Well, yeah, Friday it should have been like carnage in the UK, but this shooting just wiped it off the news.
Yeah.
England's just given up, man. We're not getting Brexit. We're extending it. Extending Article 50. Do you know why we're extending Article 50?
No.
No, no one fucking does.
Well, and it's, you know, part of like what I was saying with the
I don't even know why we're extending it. So I'm going to go to the EU and go, can we extend Article 50? I'm going to go, why? So hopefully the EU is going to be on our stage and say no. Just reject it.
And the thing is, you know, that sort of ties into what I said I was talking to my mom about.
No, again, but no deal was never part of the vote. It's like, yeah, it was. It was like, get out Europe.
Yeah.
That meant no deal. That meant no deal.
It really.
And they go, but it's going to cost 100 billion. It's going to cost 100 billion to stay. The cost is a cost both ways. Hey, look, it's not about the cost. It's about the deal. If we're going to do Theresa May's deal, we may as well just stay in Europe.
Yeah.
Because Theresa May's deal is worse than just staying in. If anything, we should just get the Queen back. Abolish government and just get the Queen back.
Yeah.
It's you clicking stuff. Stop clicking stuff.
It's not. It's my.
Jamie.
Here's the thing I can tell is that
what are you watching?
It's not, because I have an extender for the Wi-Fi right outside my room, and I'm connected to that network. Every time it drops out, the actual home network just disappears. It's like the power's being shut off in my basement over and over. Like, so we should.
That's gone well.
Yeah, we should, and I think it's happening again, so we should probably just wrap this up, because I'm already gonna
Yeah,
have
I'll let
to.
you carry on watching whatever you're watching.
I'm already gonna have to slice these videos together. But thankfully, I've finally finished getting my my computer all set back up since I upgraded the hard drives and everything like that, so I can do a lot more video stuff and clips and
Yeah, we should do something in a week. I'm more alive in a week.
All right.
So I'm always by Sunday.
Hey everyone, I don't know if you are seeing me or not. Everything, as you can tell, has been being retarded. And even now, the dashboard isn't loading to show me that you guys can see me. Alright, maybe now you can. So anyway, I'm going to get going, wrap this up. I'm going to try to upload these videos and slice it all together so that there is just one video, and really sorry, I wish I could have fixed this connection issue. I don't know